Okay, so coming to seated on your mat, having the knees slightly bent, finding a place on those sit bones. So reaching the arms up towards the ceiling, straight through the back, and then bring your right hand to the left knee, the left hand behind, rotate to the left. Come back through centre, both arms reach up to the ceiling. On your out breath, left hand to right knee, right hand behind, and turn to the right. Breath in, come back to the centre. One more both sides, right hand to left knee, rotate to the left. Come back to the centre, left hand to right knee, rotate to the right. Come back to centre. This time bring your right hand to the floor, reach over with the left. Come back to centre, both hands raised to the ceiling. Left hand then to the floor and reach over to the left. Come back to the centre. One more both sides, right hand down, reach over to the right. Right hand up, left hand down, reach over to the left. Come back to centre, bring both hands to the knees, send the chin into the chest and push the spine to the back of the room. Then push the ribs forward, lift up through the chest, lift up through the gaze, take into extension. One more both ways, bring the chin into the chest, push the spine back, and then lift the chest, squeeze the shoulder blades together and lift the gaze. Come back to a neutral place, bring the hands underneath the knees, walk the feet a little further in, find that balancing point in between the sit bones and the lower part of the spine. Roll the shoulders back, raise the right foot up to knee height, point through the toes, and then raise the left foot up to knee height and again point through the toes with that foot. Keep that chest lifted, keep the shoulders relaxed, then bring those toes back towards the shins. Hold it in that space for a breath. And then point the toes again forward. And then bring those toes again back towards the shins, all the time holding on to the back of those knees. Then make rotations with those feet and into those ankles in one direction. And rotate it the other way. And then bring those toes back towards the shins again. Then point through the toes. Release the feet to the floor. Just rock up and down that spine a couple of times. Up to seated once, back down. Up to seated twice. We'll take one more. Back down and roll. And then find yourself back in that space, that balancing point. Shoulders relaxed, chest pointing forward. Again, lift up with the right foot. Lift up with the left foot. So you can choose to stay here holding on to the legs if you wish, or if you want to challenge it slightly more, straighten the right leg and then straighten the left leg. Keep nice and tall through the spine, relax through the shoulders, finding that balancing point in between the sit bones and the lower spine. Holding it here just for one more breath. And then let a bend come back into both knees. Bring both feet to the floor. Rock up and down that spine a couple of times, maybe 3. Up once, back down. Up twice, back down. This time see if you can find that balancing point without the toes coming to the mat. Roll the shoulders back and lift up through the chest. So keeping the knees bent, we're going to take it into a little more of a challenge. Release one hand if you wish, and then release the other. Hold it by using the muscle strength of those hip flexors to keep those knees bent and those feet lifted away from the mat. Still growing tall through the spine. Maybe gazing towards those toe tips, take a point of the toes. And then flex the foot, bringing the toes back to the shins. Take a point through the toes again. Flex through the foot, bring them back to the shins. One more point through the toes. And then flex back. Release the toes to the floor. Take a hold of the back of the knees. Rock up and down that spine a couple of times. Up to seated once, back down. I keep saying a couple, but we're doing 3. And this time again, see if you can find that balancing point. If you haven't, bring the toes to the mat, then find that place into boat again. We're going to challenge it a little more. If you've come to somewhere where you feel challenged enough, this might be it here, stay here. If you're coming with me, straighten one arm out, straighten the other arm out, straighten one leg out, and straighten the other. So we're coming into that V position, both legs straight, toes back to the shins, and then point through the toes. Bring the toes back to the shins, point through the toes. One more time, toes back to the shins, and point through the toes. Take a hold of the creases of the knees, bend the knees, rock up and down that spine 3 times. Up once, back down, up twice, back down. And on this third one, see if again you can find that balancing point. Toes back to the shins. Again, choose to whatever area you wish to go to. If you're with me, release one hand, release the other. Straighten one leg, straighten the other. Reach the right arm up, reach the left arm up. The longer you make the limbs, the more it challenges the balance, the more it challenges the strength of the core. Point the toes, bring the toes back. Point, flex, point, and flex. Bring the hands to the back of the knees, bend the knees, rock up and down that spine a few times. As you can tell, it starts to get a little more challenging as we move through. Stop at whatever point you feel you need to stop. I'm just going to move myself back a little bit as I've rolled too far to the end of the mat. So we're holding on to the knees now. We're going to take it from high boat to low boat. So release the hands either side. On your out breath, come down with the shoulders, point through the toes, straighten the legs. In breath, bring it back to that balancing point. Out breath, straighten. In breath, back to the balancing point. 2 more, out breath, straighten. In breath, back to the balancing point. 1 more, straighten, keep that core strength engaged. And back to that balancing point. Let the toes come to the floor, take a hold of the knees, squeeze those knees in towards the chest. Maybe bend that chin into the chest and let that head hang a moment. Easy breath in and long breaths out. So we're going to bring it into our bear pose now. So I'm just going to face you at the camera. Bring the elbows to the inside of the knees and take a hold of the big toes with the index finger, middle finger, the 2 peace fingers, and wrap the thumbs around. Again, find something where we can balance on between those sit bones and the lower spine, and then just sort of slightly bring those heels away from the mat. When you've found a balancing point, we're going to alternate with both legs, straightening and bending. So straighten through the left leg, bring it back to a bend. Straighten through the right leg, bring it back to a bend. 2 more both sides, straighten the left, back to a bend, all the time staying balanced on that place between the sit bones and the lower spine. 1 more both sides. And then bring both feet back together. Choice to alternate again, or if you're coming with me, we're going into both legs coming straight. They don't have to be fully straight if you don't wish. And have a little fun with the balance. Lift up through the chest, push the heels away, toes back to the shins, holding on to those big toes with those peace fingers. Relax the shoulders down. Maybe gaze up to the ceiling, which will challenge the balance a little bit more. Hold it in this space. It may be that your knees are in this position. Just find as much straightness by engaging those upper thighs as you can. 1 more breath here. And then bring both feet back together and give those knees a hug. Bring those foreheads into the knees We're going to take one more balance. This time we're taking a hold of the outside of the feet. We're going to find that balancing point again. And then this time we're going to bring our legs as straight as you can, but keeping the feet and knees together. So pushing the heels away, toes back to the shins, relaxing through the shoulders. So if you get a side profile of this, we're here all the time, keeping a nice straight back, holding it in this space just for one more breath. Then take a bend into the knees, bring the legs to a cross. Take a breath in, raise the hands up to the ceiling, take a breath out, bring the hands to the chest. You'll feel really challenged in the core on this one. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your hearts, from my heart to yours. Namaste.